in the Money Matters Radio Network studios. Always glad to be here with my co-host, Mark Z, the fabulous Mark Z. Mark, we have a great guest in studio. Before you introduce this person, I think there's something I need to say to our audience. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Advisory services offered through Centerpoint Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the Securities Exchange Commission. Securities are offered through National Securities Corporation, member FINRA/SIPC. Accounts are carried by National Financial Services, LLC, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC, a Fidelity Investments registered company. Centerpoint Advisors, LLC, and National Securities Corporation are not affiliated entities. All opinions of Richard Green and Jennifer Wolfsberg are of their own.
And speaking of which, we're honored to have Jennifer Wolfsberg, who's the managing principal of Centerpoint Advisors. And Jennifer, I'm looking forward to hearing about your subject today.
Thank you. Good morning, both of you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jennifer. After a year, they're finally letting me read that disclaimer.
I know. It's been passed around, but you did a very good job. Very good job.
I didn't goof it up too badly.
No, not at all.
Jennifer, you were talking to Mark and I offline. It seems like you're bringing up a very relevant topic for people this time of year.
Yeah, you know, it's a difficult topic at this time of year, as everyone knows, with the holiday season coming around. But and I hate talking about the fiscal cliff because that's what everyone's talking about all the time. But this is part of the collective fiscal cliff issue about the emergency unemployment compensation program expiring by year end, and if the government doesn't do something to extend upon that. So unfortunately, it's difficult for so many Americans, but to kind of give people a better picture, in the Massachusetts area, we have about 12 million people in Massachusetts that are unemployed. 45,000 are due to lose their benefits by the end of the month. So it's quite shocking.
It's quite a number.
It is. To kind of give people an example.
That's how you balance a budget, I guess.
I take that back. I'm so sorry. It's actually 230,000 people in Massachusetts that are unemployed, not 12 million. 12 million is national.
No,
I thought 12 million was
I was going to say is right. 12 million national,
yeah.
And 230.
230 in Massachusetts.
And out of the 230, it's 45,000.
It's 45,000. That's a big percentage.
Right.
So give people a better idea of how that affects our local economy. The 45,000, let's just say, take an average of $475 a week that they'll be getting. That's about $24,700 per year. That's over 1.1 billion in benefits that will be set to expire. So we look at this, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, we look at this twofold. For the local economy, what that will do with regards to spending, and how that will affect us for the local economy, and how it's going to affect the families around the holiday seasons, and what do you do? And we've been talking about, we have a lot of successful clients that are running into this issue, people that have had very stable 25, 30-year jobs, are very successful executives, that they're just not hiring those level of positions at this point in time. And you know that, Mark. You definitely know that. So that's a difficult. People with extensive experience are not getting hired, and kids coming out of college are not getting hired.
Right.
So what do you do? And we talk to clients about that a lot as part of their planning. If you do not have that savings cushion for yourself, where do you access that money? And in a lot of cases, not just with our clients, but with people around the country, that they're having to access their 401ks and their retirement plans, creating horrible penalties and early distributions.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about what's going on with unemployment benefits, but you talk about executives, and we talk about college students and other people that are been laid off from different types of jobs. What's interesting is, and I don't know if you've seen a study, and I think it might be 1 to 2%, but there's a lot of people who are on unemployment that could be temping.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
The interesting thing about it is, I've had these discussions with other leaders in the past, but for some reason, here's the problem, that a lot of people, and I can tell you this because it goes on every week in my company. When we approach somebody about a temporary assignment, they say, well, I make more money on unemployment. And,
absolutely.
And what's interesting is the purpose of unemployment was to provide benefits while somebody was looking for a job. It's not public assistance. And unfortunately, it's been treated like that. And so there are executives that may not, like for example, I know some executives that got laid off from companies that are now doing some consulting,
yes.
that are working, doing their temporary CPAs or temporary CIOs. And and I tell you that because that could transition into a job.
Well, that's what we talk to people about all the time. Look at that. Look at first. Obviously we're concerned about the expiration of the benefits.
Right.
Number one, what do we do from here? Okay, write your congressperson, make sure they understand. Not everybody is abusing the system.
Correct.
But I'm sure we all know that there are people that they are abusing the system. And just speak to your exact point of saying, you know what, it's cheaper for me to stay home than not doing, they go out and look for a job. But we tell people, research industry growth. Is it healthcare? Is it, you have to think outside the box at a certain point in time when you're unemployed for 6, 12 or longer, month-wise, to say, you know what, maybe it's time for me to go back to school, do online courses. There's some great certification, 6-week courses that will train you some new skills. But think about something that you would never have considered before.
Right.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. And I know, because it's happened with us at Centerpoint, that we have asked a few people to come on temporarily to get us through some transition times, and then you find that they're so good you just can't live without them. So you find it in the budget to keep those people, and you realize the value added that they bring, and the leverage that they provide for your time and the executive's time. So but some people just aren't willing to do that. I mean, don't you find that?
It's unfortunate. And what it does is it's a couple things. As you said, there's a lot of people that deserve the benefits, that can't get a job, that can use the retraining, and because of these other people who are not, who are treating it like public assistance, and they make more money and they won't temp, it's affecting these people that really need it. But I agree with you, a lot of people won't do it. I had a woman that we placed last week that she finally agreed to temp for us. Why? Because her unemployment benefits had run out. And guess what? She temped for us, and after a month and a half, the company offered her a job. I was telling her that for 2 years. Plus, what happens is, when you're continually on unemployment, then the farther and farther you get from being employed, the skills that you don't learn.
I always say you get stale.
Right, you get not only stale, but they say, why has this person been unemployed for so long?
Absolutely.
What are the gaps? And people don't look at the repercussions. So it's a multiple factor situation that really affects people when they're deciding to take unemployment. If you look at it as, you know what, I'm going to go out and temp. I'm going to look at ways that I can make money to supplement while I interview for jobs. And in between, you can still file.
Absolutely.
And get that. But people aren't looking at that. And now, because so many people have eaten up that account, that's why we're having the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people too, on the employer side, I think it's our responsibility too to think outside the box and think, we're not always looking for the young. You know what I mean? To think, you know what, these people that maybe have a few gray hairs like we all do now, and think, there's so much more experience that they bring to the table versus always looking, for the temp agency and to be willing to add on that expertise.
I feel terrible because I really do have sympathy for people who are out of work and there aren't enough jobs to go around. It's like the old musical chairs game. There's only so many chairs in the room and there's people. But people aren't being smart, and maybe the government isn't either, about how do you get people back to work. And what you're always emphasizing, Mark, is that if you're just sitting at home and you're cashing your checks, you're not going to get a job the longer you're out. And you have to get out, even if you volunteer, even if you temp, even if you, whatever you do, you have to show that you're still relevant in some way.
For the employers
And it used to be that way during the Depression. They gave people jobs.
Right. And what's interesting is two things. For example, as Jennifer said, you got to look at training, you got to look at think outside the box. So for example, for an employee, if I'm a legal secretary and the legal secretary positions are being eliminated every day, but guess what? In the medical field, it's a very busy field in the healthcare. So if you can get trained in that area and use that unemployment to do that, then you move into an area where there is jobs.
Right.
And not and that's the thing. And as an employer, say, you know what, here's somebody who's potentially talented. They have a lot of years of life experience in this area, but now they can be trained for this. And guess what? Because they're older, they may be more stable than somebody who's just out of school, still trying to figure out what they're going to be doing.
Right. Absolutely.
So, I mean, it makes a big difference when you're trying to run a company and you're trying to.
But this is also going to have effect on the economy.
Oh, definitely. It has the effect on the economy. I think. Since the EUC has been started in 2008, they've revised it as well as, considered it to keep going, I should say. You know what I mean? They keep revising the plan about 10 times. But we've never been at this level of unemployment in the history of our economy and have them eliminate the benefits and take them away. So I am pretty positive that they're going to come to some kind of solution.
But you can't extend them forever. You can't keep people on unemployment for years.
But in some cases, the government says, you know what, we need that for the economy, we need that for consumer spending. The Republican side is saying, look, by doing this, people abuse the system longer.
Again, I'm not trying to be cool and callous, but I thought that's what welfare was for.
Well,
if unemployment didn't work after what?
That's what I'm saying.
Point.
It's not public assistance.
No.
Right.
It's unemployment. And the other thing is, it's the counselors too. I volunteered to go on that board to help people, to educate some of these counselors, because they say to these people, you can't work because it's going to affect your unemployment, or you can't take on this.
Yeah.
And they're discouraging too, or if you do that, you're going to lose the benefits. Well, this should be somebody to appeal that to say, look, we had somebody about a week ago that got a temp assignment, and the counselor said, you're going to lose your unemployment benefits if you don't go into this training session for 2 hours.
I wholeheartedly believe that. I think that the next step is, if the program is allowed to expire by year end,
Right.
I think, just to Jeff's point, that's what's going to happen. People are going to transition. We're going to have a lot of people on welfare. That's going to be the next step.
Right.
I mean, the amount of people on food stamps has increased by 70%.
And I think that's a political statement. I don't think, with an election that we just had, that the Democrats wanted a lot of people on welfare, because that would have been political suicide for them. So they keep them on unemployment because that's a better place to be.
Correct. But
it was a holding ground for the election.
Correct. And as Jennifer made a good point is, when the people get the unemployment benefits, then they spend the money, and that goes to the economy. So you're right, there is a balance. It just, they have to get together, and the states, and the states have to literally tighten it up. Some people literally now buy the computer. I mean, the system right now is, you don't have to even talk to anybody. You can do it all on a computer, in terms of your status every week. I mean, there should be somebody actively monitoring, actively calling people, and if they do that, I guarantee you can be cutting this down. And that way, the money that's needed for people who really need it gets diverted, because
right,
and they have the training to do that.
But I think the counselors need to be better at more educated themselves.
Correct.
Because I have a couple of friends that went through the whole process, and what ends up happening is that they turn around and say, oh, you should go to this job, which is just not relevant to their skill set. So I feel like they're not getting the right direction for professionals. If they all had marks, it'd be one thing, you know what I mean? But it's not the case out there.
Right.
This is Radio Entrepreneurs. We've been speaking with Jennifer Wolfsberg about unemployment and the economy. Jennifer, if someone wants to get hold of you, how would they do that? Yes,
you can call Centerpoint Advisors at 617-213-4000, or go to our website, which is www.centerpointadvisors.net.
Well, I just want to say, Jennifer, last week I was assuming that I was going to win the lottery. I was going to get my $500 million. I was going to give it all to you.
Thank you.
And I was going to go buy, but I also wanted to buy an island. I was going to buy my own island.
Okay.
I was going to invite Mark to come visit. We could set up a little radio station there. It didn't work out, so we're going to have to continue to come here.
That's okay. It's worth it.
Remind everybody that this is Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm here with the fabulous Mark Z, Jennifer Wolfsberg. We'll be right back after this break with more stories of entrepreneurship.